Hey Hudson, how are you doing? Hey Samuel, to be honest, not that great. I'm dealing with a lot right now. Oh no, what's going on? There is a lot of work at the moment, so I'm completely busy with it. I am also looking for a new office for my company. And how are you? I'm fine. I'll be in town soon. If we have free time, we can meet. Oh yeah, let's be in touch. 1 week later. Samuel, I can't believe this is happening to me. Huh? What happened? I used to think my bond with Naomi was unbreakable since we never had any issues, and I never doubted her loyalty. However, my world turned upside down when I received a message from a lady who said her fiancé had an affair with my wife. I didn't want to accept it at first, but the more she told me, the more convinced I became that it was real. Oh my God, I can't even imagine what you're going through right now. It's been a rough time for me, man. That lady spilled all the beans about my wife's cheating escapade, from the exact dates and length of the affair to the names of co-workers who were in on it. Can you believe they even gave her my home address and the hotel name where they did the dirty deed? It's disturbing to even think about it. What's even worse is that the guy my wife hooked up with was just a 21-year-old kid. It's like she was lurking around for prey or something. The whole situation is just messed up. That's really messed up. I'm so sorry, Hudson. It's crazy how everything went down. The affair took place while I was away on a business trip that I had planned for months. Now, it all makes sense, and I can see that Naomi must have schemed this up in advance. I just can't wrap my head around the fact that she would do this to me. How could she betray the trust that we built over the years? It feels like a stab in the back, and I'm left feeling hurt and confused. Have you talked to her about it? No, not yet. I'm trying to get my mind and emotions in check before I confront her about the cheating. I don't want to start a shouting match because I know Naomi can get explosive when she feels cornered. It's so disheartening to see her act like nothing happened, going about her day planning family vacations and all that jazz she's talking about visiting our daughters. Meanwhile, I'm here feeling like a zombie, just going through the motions. It's like I'm an invisible entity living in the same house as her. The whole situation is just depressing. I can only imagine how difficult that must be for you, Hudson. Is there anything I can do to help? Thanks, Samuel. I appreciate it. Honestly, I've made up my mind to deal with this mess on my own for now. My routine is like clockwork. I wake up at 6 a.m., hit the gym, head to work, and come back around 8 p.m., just trying to keep to myself. I'm pretty sure my wife is also feeling the awkwardness, but at this point, I couldn't care less. I'm just playing the waiting game until I can bail out of this marriage. It's not like I don't feel anything. But right now, I'm just numb, trying to keep my head down and focus on myself. That must have been really hard for you. And your daughters knew about it? Yes, that's what hurt me the most. My kids knew all along that their mother was out there cheating on me, and they said nothing. It's crazy to think that they were just teenagers when they found out. Yet they kept the secret from me for 3 long years. I don't even know how they managed to keep it from me for so long. It's like they were accomplices to her infidelity or something. I don't know what to think or how to feel about it. Have you talked to your daughters about it? No, I haven't. I'm really struggling with how to approach my kids about this whole situation. On one hand, I can understand why they kept it from me. They probably thought they were protecting the family or something. But on the other hand, they knew the truth and didn't tell me for 3 whole years. I don't know if I can forgive them for that. Honestly, I'm feeling a lot of anger right now, and I don't know where to direct it. I obviously hate my Naomi for what she did, but the anger towards my kids is misplaced. I love them, but I'm just so disappointed and hurt that they kept such a huge secret from me. I'm not even sure if my youngest told my other 2 daughters about the affair or not. I assume she did because they're all so close, but I can't be 100% sure. Regardless, I don't want to blame them. I can understand why they did what they did, but it's just so hard to accept a lie. It's like they were siding with their cheating mom instead of their own father. I just need some alone time to think things through. I feel like I haven't had any time to myself lately between my wife, my daughters, and my business. The gym is the only place where I can really clear my head. But even that doesn't feel like enough right now. I just need some time to process everything and figure out how to move forward from here. It's crazy how life can throw you a curveball when you least expect it. I thought I was doing everything right as a husband and father. I busted to provide for my family and always tried to be there for them. I wanted to make sure my girls had everything they needed, and I never missed an important moment in their lives. Despite the occasional bumps in the road, I always saw them as my little princesses. But now everything feels like it's been flipped on its head. I can only imagine how difficult this is for you, Hudson. It's natural to feel angry and betrayed in a situation like this. But what do you think you'll do next? Honestly, I don't know. Part of me wants to just leave everything behind and start fresh somewhere else. But I know that's not a practical solution. I have responsibilities here, and I can't just walk away from them. I see. What about your wife? Is there any chance for reconciliation there? No, there's no chance for that. It's like nails on a chalkboard whenever Naomi talks to me. I don't know how she expects me to act normal after what she did. She's acting like nothing happened, like we're still the same happy couple we used to be, but I can't pretend anymore. I can't look at her without feeling a mix of anger and disgust. The mere thought of being around her for too long makes me want to scream. I just can't do it. I can't pretend like everything's okay when it's not. Well, at least you've spoken to a lawyer and have some clarity on the legal side of things. That's a start. Yeah, that's true. I'm really grateful for the support I have from my lawyer. He reassured me that child support won't be an issue since our children are grown. And it's good to know that my wife won't be able to get any spouse support either, especially since she's doing well for herself. My parents always told me to have separate bank accounts if both partners are working, and I'm glad we followed their advice. The lawyer did mention that Naomi could try and argue for a portion of my business if I sell it, but I'm not too worried about it since things are going well. But if your wife cheated on you, have you thought about taking a paternity test? The idea of paternity tests can be a bit complicated. I've raised my 3 daughters for 20 years now, and whether or not they're my flesh and blood doesn't change the fact that they're my daughters. If it turns out that they're not biologically related to me, does that suddenly mean that I'm not their dad anymore? Of course not. They're still the same kids I've known and loved all these years, and really, if anyone should be held accountable for any discrepancies in paternity, it's the mother. It's not fair to put that burden on the children. Yeah, I can understand that, but still, it's a big revelation. Yeah, it is. I didn't need a paternity test, but I wanted to collect evidence, so I started my own investigation. I scoured through my wife's emails and text messages, looking for any signs of infidelity. I even went as far as to hire a private investigator to follow her around. It wasn't an easy journey, but in the end, the evidence was overwhelming. Naomi had indeed been cheating on me, and while it was devastating to find out, I'm glad that I trusted my instincts and did my own investigation. That sounds like a lot of work. It is, but I need to know the truth. But as painful as it is, I know I have to face it. I've had some time to process everything, and it turns out that the guy she had an affair with was actually preparing to get married. Can you believe that? I mean, what was going through his mind? Did he not think about the consequences of his actions? All I know is that he played a major role in destroying my marriage, and for that, I'll never be able to forgive him. That's really tough. What are you going to do now? Well, the thing is, I can't just leave. If I did, it would be devastating for my youngest daughter, who didn't share the secret and kept it to herself. And my other 2 daughters might resent her for it. So, I've come up with a plan. I'm going to expedite the paperwork and serve my wife. That way, we can start the divorce process as quickly as possible. But I'm not going to leave my girls hanging. On the same day that I serve my wife, I'm going to Skype with my daughters so we can discuss the situation and clear things up. I know it's not going to be easy, but I want to make sure that my girls know that I'm here for them. They didn't ask for any of this, and they shouldn't have to bear the brunt of our marital problems. But at the same time, I need to do what's best for me, too. It's a delicate balancing act, but I'm determined to make it work. That's a good plan. When are you going to do that? I'm hoping to file the paperwork by next week. It's important to me that I do it as soon as possible, so that my daughters don't accidentally spill the beans to their mom and she has the chance to play unhappy woman. I want to catch her off guard and make sure she knows that I'm not messing around. But at the same time, I don't want to show my cards too soon. That's why I'm holding off on telling her that I know about the affair until I'm ready to serve her with the paperwork. It's a delicate dance for sure. But I'm determined to do what's best for my family, even if it means playing a little bit of a waiting game. Oh, keep me informed. 2 weeks later. Hey, Hudson. How are you doing? I'm okay, Samuel. Last week was tough, though. I took my youngest daughter to lunch, so I asked her straight up if she had anything to share with me. And that's when she broke down. Tears streaming down her face, she told me the whole truth. A few years ago, she caught her mother making out with another man in our own house. She didn't want to hurt me, and so she kept the truth to herself. Oh, man, that's terrible. How did you react to that? When my youngest daughter finally revealed the truth about her mother's infidelity, I was absolutely stunned. She told me that her mother had begged her not to tell me anything, fearing that I would leave her and our family. I couldn't believe that my wife would put our child in that kind of position. As it turned out, my other 2 daughters had their suspicions as well. But when my eldest daughter tried to confront her mother about it, she was always met with a convincing excuse. I felt like I had been living in a lie, completely unaware of what was really going on behind the scenes. So, what did you do after that? After hearing the devastating news from my youngest daughter, I knew I had to let my other 2 daughters know as well. I called them up and broke the news, and they both broke down in tears, apologizing as if it was their fault. But of course, it wasn't their fault at all, and I made sure to let them know that. I told them that I planned to talk to their mother before making any rash decisions, and when I finally got home, she could sense that something was off. I sat her down and told her about the conversation with our daughter, and she started crying, insisting that it was just a one-time kiss. But as much as I wanted to believe her, I knew in my heart that things were more complicated than that. I couldn't just sweep this under the rug and pretend like everything was fine. It was clear to me that our marriage had been built on a foundation of lies, and I couldn't stay in that house anymore. So I made the decision to pack my bags and leave for a hotel. It wasn't an easy decision to make, but I knew deep down that it was the right one. That must have been tough. Yes, so when I made the decision to leave the house and stay at a hotel, I knew I had to inform my other 2 daughters about the situation. They were both concerned and wanted to know what was going on, so I told them that their sister and I would be staying overnight at a hotel and that we would all discuss everything together. I explained to them what had happened, and then I went on to tell them about the next steps according to my lawyer. It was important to me that they knew what was going on legally, and what the potential outcomes could be, and how did events develop further. Next morning, my daughter and I had been discussing our plans for the day when the phone rang. I had hesitated to answer, but my daughter urged me to pick it up. As soon as I heard my wife's voice, I knew something was off. She was slurring her words and rambling, clearly under something. Despite her inebriated state, she started pouring out her heart to me, telling me that she still loved me and that we should be together for the sake of our children. But I knew that wasn't the right thing to do. Our children were grown now and didn't need us to be together for their sake. It was time for them to start their own lives, and I couldn't let my wife's emotions cloud my judgment. Suddenly, Naomi's demeanor shifted, and she started making wild threats. She said she would take everything from me, destroy my company, and even lie to our daughters about bad attitude towards her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was like she had turned into a completely different person in the blink of an eye. I looked over at my daughter, who was also in disbelief. I knew I had to take control of the situation, so I interrupted my wife and calmly told her that my lawyer would be in touch. It was time for me to focus on protecting myself and my family, and I couldn't let my wife's erratic behavior derail that. That's really intense. What did you do after that? My daughter and I sat in silence, both in shock from the phone call with my wife. We had known her for over 20 years, and now she seemed like a stranger. It was surreal. As we tried to process what had just happened, my daughter's phone buzzed with a message from her mother. We both knew that answering it would likely lead to another unpleasant conversation, so I told her not to respond. Besides, her mother was obviously not in the right state of mind to have a rational conversation. I reassured my daughter that I would stay with her at the hotel until everything was sorted out. She nodded, grateful for my support. We spent the rest of the day talking, trying to make sense of what had happened, and discussing what the future held for our family. That's really thoughtful of you, Hudson. How are things now? Well, the divorce is on the way, and my daughter is staying with me for now. Unfortunately, my wife has been sending me messages, but I've been following my lawyer's advice and not meeting with her. It's just too risky, especially given how unpredictable she has become. I still can't believe that the woman I once loved could turn into someone so vindictive and cruel. As for my plans to travel to Thailand, I've decided to postpone my trip until my youngest daughter is in a good place. She's still in high school, and I want to make sure that she has the support she needs before I leave. It's not an easy decision, but family always comes first. Maybe next year, after she graduates, we can all take a trip together and start healing as a family. You're a good father, Hudson. I'm sure your daughter appreciates all that you're doing for her. Thank you, Samuel. It's been a tough time, but I'm doing the best I can for my family. I just hope everything works out in the end. After that, well, in the end, Naomi and I split up. Thankfully, my lawyer reassured me that Naomi's plan to take my personal savings or a chunk of my company wouldn't work out. She did end up getting a small portion that she was entitled to, but it wasn't much. Now my youngest daughter and I are living together, and we're actually closer than ever. We make a point to visit my other two daughters often and spend quality time with them. Even though my family went through a tough time, I feel like we've become stronger and better than ever before, and I've got a ton of support. It's definitely been a hard journey, but I'm grateful for the positive outcome.